year. We really appreciate all the hard work that you've put into it so far, and we're looking forward to seeing how it evolves as it unrolls. So today we're going to get Terry to just give a little bit of background information. Terry is our vice principal at POPDHH, and then Angela and Christina will give us a little bit of information about how they envision this program rolling out and how you guys can participate if you're interested. So I'll hand it over to Terry right away, and just a reminder to keep all of your cameras and microphones off. If you have any questions, I'll be watching the chat box and I will chime in if it's an urgent question that's relevant to the second. Otherwise, I'll save the questions until the end. All right, over to you, Terry. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Hi, everyone. Hello, I am Terry Maloney. I am thrilled to be here to talk about this topic. Could we move over to the next slide? I'm not sure who is controlling those. All right, perfect, thank you. Again, thrilled that we are able to work here with our team at POPDHH on teacher mentorship and also looking at how to expand. And we've been envisioning this program for a while, realizing that we have had mentorship as a program for quite some time, but then what happens after mentorship? There are some individuals who have emailed, sent texts, called, etc., just wanting a little bit of feedback around itinerant teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing who work alone in remote situations typically, who do want to come and get some more support, but aren't able to be involved in the teacher mentorship program for whatever reason. So whether it is their district or timing just doesn't work for them, or they're unable to do that with the caseload that they have. So we have been thinking how to move forward, and perhaps it would be better to look at which area needs a little bit of extra support, whether that is in speech and language, whether it's in listening, sign language, in writing IEPs, etc. So our goal is to support itinerant teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing to feel a little bit less isolated, to feel a little bit more connected to their colleagues. And we are thrilled to announce that we are getting this program up and off the ground. Hopefully you guys are going to have your interest snagged right away by Christina and Angela's presentation. At the end, I will pop back in and answer any questions that may be in my purview to answer, but this is going to be an excellent opportunity for us to learn together. Thank you so much, and I will turn this over to Angela and Christina. And I will turn my camera off.
Okay, can somebody right next? Perfect. So on the odd chance you don't know who I am, I'm Angela Wallenuse, and I work in SD20, which is Kootenai, Columbia, which is Trail and Castlegar areas. I also do shared contracts with SD10, which is New Denver at this particular point. SD51, which thankfully is only in Grand Forks right now. A Francophone school in Nelson, and I also provide support with the TDHH in Creston. So I'm all over the place. Mentorship. As Terry mentioned, mentorship has been going on for a while, and this is kind of an offshoot of it. But mentorship has been around since 2012. I think Christina and I were talking about it. We have both been in there from the very beginning. And we just find it's such a valuable opportunity and time to meet with other colleagues of ours. It's so great to be able to meet these people, form connections, and then afterwards be able to, just text somebody and say, hey, this audiogram, would you use, would you, okay, I'm having a little brain pause here. Would you claim this child or not? And it just gives us a lot of feedback. So mentorship from when it started to where it's now is awesome, and going forward is pretty exciting. Christina, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you've said it. That's good.
So yeah, Christina and I've been it from the get-go. So we did it, I think it was a year-long process or a year-long commitment, and now it's been made to 2 years. Okay, next slide, please. Oh,
I don't know who's working the system, but they're not doing a very good job.
there's a lot of transitions. So what is the TDHH induction and retention, or we used to call it mentorship point 2.0? I'm going to just shorten it and say I and R, because I tend to fumble my words if they're too big sometimes. So so the mentors, there's one mentor and one mentee per session. A mentor is committed to 2 years, and a mentee is commits to a year. And so it's like one mentor, one mentee, and another mentor, one mentee. So there's 2 mentors at the moment. And it's a period of 1 year. And it's for all teachers of deaf and hard of hearing, some who are new, some who are seasoned and just want the support. Those coming back into the field, they're struggling, they're isolated, they want fresh eyes. So the timeline is this January, we're going to be launching the recruitment process and accepting 2 mentee applicants. Christina and I are going to be the mentors at this round. And then from January to December 2021, Christina and I will take on 1 mentee each, and we will explain that a little bit more afterwards. January 2022, which is so weird to say right now because we're still in 20, to June 2022, the mentor, the mentees with POPDHH, we will get together, have feedback, tweak the program, what worked, what didn't work, what can be developed more. And then we'll also have to decide, what do we do if we get a whole bunch of applicants? Do we get more mentors to do this? And how do we prioritize the mentees, depending. However, if only 2 or 3 show up per year, then it won't be so much of a issue of what to do. So that's the time period that we have for the moment. Next slide, please.
I just was going to interject for a second, Angela, if that's all right.
Always.
So with this program, it might come across like it's just, you'll find that because Angela and I both work in remote areas, that it might come across that this program is just for people who work in isolation. But that's totally not true, because just because you might have a group of people that you work with, maybe either other TDHHs. I know I did a partner visit in Surrey and was in awe of the amount of TDHHs that are there. That may not, just because you have other people that you work with doesn't mean that you couldn't be a part of this. Sometimes when we work closely with people, it might, not always, but sometimes it can be like, there is always, well, not always, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. There can be this idea of some uncertainty, you don't want to look unprofessional or that you don't know your stuff. And it's very nice when you can connect with another person that is outside of who you work with, right? If you have that great relationship and everything that's kind of this may not pertain to you, but just because you work with some people doesn't mean that you can't be a part of this. And just because you aren't rural doesn't mean that you can't be a part of this. You can be a part of this regardless of whether or not you work with someone or whether or not you're rural or if you're urban.
Exactly. It's for all teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing in the province of BC. And Christina, you're on that one.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Angela.
I'll just go the mentorship groupies.
Yeah,
go for it.
There's a few people. Angela and I are definitely part of the group, but we are not isolated by any stretch to be considered mentorship groupies. It sounds like we should get shirts made. Ooh, just came up with that idea now. I may have an easy press on its way. I could actually make the shirts. Just saying. Anyway, I know Caitlin's intrigued. So there is a bunch of us that started mentorship. I know that when I first went to mentorship, I I knew that mentorship was going to be great. And the reason is because I was fortunate to be mentored before this. When I got hired, I was so lucky to be hired for a mat leave for someone who had a couple months before they went on mat leave. And I got to follow her around, and I got the wisdom that she gave me. And I have been so, my work now, like my job, I am a product of that. And there's something just so great about being able to connect with someone when you aren't sure about something. And I have had that. And so when mentorship first came into being, I remember thinking, yeah, because I talked to other TDHHs. I was in the master's program at the time, and they didn't have that. They were, and of course I just sounded like I was so lucky, and I was. But so when this first came into being, I'm like, yes, not only do I want to be a part of it, I definitely can see how everybody would want to be a part of it. And I definitely work in isolation, though I did work with someone for a period of time and still join mentorship, even though I worked, with my mentor. So I had a mentor and I joined mentorship. So, anybody can join mentorship basically. So, yeah, so we are in a place right now where it's hard. Like we want to keep, we're get super focused on our teaching, right? Like we've got these kids and it's hard to actually leave them. It's hard to imagine taking 3 days off or something to just go and join mentorship. Not everybody can kind of do that. And so then it's like, well, I can't do it. Like if I can't leave 3 times a year to go and go to Vancouver or spend that amount of time, that means I can't be a part of it. So it's really, this is going to be a program that potentially could really work for some people who just feel that they can't give the time. Now, I hear at the beginning of every cohort of mentorship, there's always some people that are like, I just don't know how I can leave my district. Oftentimes after they join mentorship, they see the benefits of that, what they get from mentorship and bring back to their students is actually better than if they would have just stayed and done their usual. That growth, that development, that knowledge that is gained, it's worth it. It's worth it, definitely. So this is going to look a little bit different. And for those people who maybe just feel they can't make the jump, this might be like, it might be some scaffolding. It might be a way for them to get into mentorship, but some people just may never get into mentorship. This may be what they need. But starting to make those connections with other TDHHs is critical for us to keep current, to improve our practice, to do some self-reflection. That happens to me all the time. Mentor mentee, sometimes that comes across a little bit like, oh, I know everything. I don't know everything. As we'll talk in later slides, it's this opportunity to really learn from each other.
Yeah, that I totally agree. It's just because Christina and I and other people are labeled the mentor, we still learn as well. And that's part of it. It's the connections and learning. So partner visits. So those who are in mentorship right now for the first time, hopefully COVID will go away at some point soon in the next 6 to 8 months. And if you get to do the partnership visits, those are fabulous. You would be the 3rd cohort doing partnership visits. And it was fantastic because you not only get to see other people in different areas, you get to see what their jobs are like, and you get more connections of, oh, wow, yes, I agree with that, or that's totally different than mine, but what you're doing is something I can take back to my district. So the partner visits is you go to your partner's district and they come to yours. You can change the slide.
Yeah, I just wanted to add into Angela that the reason that we're talking about partner visits is because essentially, this program is kind of a bit mirrors a bit of a partner visit. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that'll look like. There's a certain kind of time commitment. There's certain protocols that you have to follow before you go on your partner visit. There's certain stuff that you have to follow after. There's responsibilities that you have to do before and after. And those things mirror kind of these partner visits, but then it expands it. So it's like a partner visit, but it expands it to making these connections on a regular basis. Yeah, there's Andrew's going to explain exactly what I was talking about.
I just have to say this picture is 2 cohorts ago. Yes, and when we did our final visit in Kelowna, which was really great. So you do get a chance to travel even in the regular mentorship. But anyway, so for the mentor and mentee I&R program, it's 1-year commitment for the mentee, as I mentioned before, and it's 1 to 2 visits per year. Again, this is all COVID dependent as well, and what what both mentor and mentee can do. So it might be where the mentor goes twice a year to the mentee's school district, or they take turns. We also would like to connect visually, connect face-to-face on some kind of social media platform once a month to just connect. And we can even do the weekly check-ins via email or text. Just it's kind of like, I know we also refer back to mentorship all the time, but it is a lot like mentorship, but it's going to be condensed. Instead of the 2 years, it's all in 1 year and a little bit more frequent contact. Christina, anything to add on that?
I think it's funny how things kind of develop, but what we have found being in a variety of mentorship groups is that this naturally occurs almost. Like what we're asking, or what we're talking about here, is putting what has naturally occurred with mentorship into something more concrete, something that is more, especially if you're spending any money in it, it actually it's kind of some proof to why it's needed. But what happens out of mentorship often is you make connections with some people, and through those connections you go to them with questions and they come to you, kind of that back and forth. And it is not out of the ordinary for me to have a week and be texting with different TDHHs across the province, asking them things. And it is not unusual for me to have FaceTime meeting with them to go over something, right? Like right now, just as an example, in my district, they're doing Teams presentations for assemblies, and I need to come up with a 1-pager on how they can make sure that they include closed captioning. And the first thing I do is put myself out there to other people to ask, to try and see what other people have done and see what's going on there. It's so much more of a community. And so we're trying to, in a weird way, create this, right, with people who haven't had the opportunity to come together. And I'm sure, as if there's any people who are part of the mentorship program right now, it is not easy, right, during COVID times to create these examples that we've gone through and had and have shown have often come about because of the actual physically coming together. Doing it online is a little bit different, but COVID won't be here for forever, so we won't need to always be concerned about that. But it will be something that we need to continue to work on. So we're kind of taking that piece that's naturally happened through mentorship and make it a bit more structured, and so that we can do it with another person, and hopefully they like me. That is
that's right.
Not everybody's cup of tea, but but the idea is potentially that it starts something, right? If I'm not their person, maybe Angela is, right? So
yeah. Also with the induction and retention is, we do know, especially, it doesn't matter whether you're working with several partners, with several colleagues, or you're on your own. It can be stressful, and we want to help support everyone so that we can have healthy work lives and keep everybody in their jobs, because we need more teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing. So I think, Ivana, you're doing the slides, hit them again. So these are some areas. This is not exhaustive. that we would look at in our partner visits. And it is driven a lot by what the mentee would like to, would like some support with or have questions about. But we were also going to be creating some files where we can put in templates and anything that would help support. So for example, like an assessment file, we can put in that the functional listing evaluation, the SIFTER screeners, the information that has the impact of hearing loss on education and social and speech and language. With report writing, we can put in our own samples of reports. If somebody wants, hey, you know what, I want to upgrade my reports. What do you have? We can put in some samples of there. And we can also ask if all the teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing to provide one sample, and then you can choose. Again, supporting interpreters, we can make a subfolder that has job descriptions, because if you do need to have an interpreter hired, it's important to have a really good job description. And for some districts, they also need to know that if you're going to ask for a visual language interpreter or an ASL interpreter, that you get someone who's qualified, because they also have title protection on their jobs. So you can't call yourself an ASL interpreter if you're not certified by Waverley. So just information for that. Speech development, we could put in activities. Same thing with ASL development, put in online courses, put a plug-in for POPDHH's sign language class that they provide, input on apps that are good for learning some sign language for kids. So we can make a whole bunch of resources that are easily accessible for anybody who's a mentor or mentee. And once they're in, they still have access.
Yeah, I think that these are just obviously some of the areas that we looked at. And I think sometimes you don't always know what it is. Like, you'll have some ideas. I know that I did. Before going into a partner visit, you're supposed to create some goals, things that you wanted to look at, kind of how you're going to do that. And but sometimes the really great stuff, well, those goals are there and they get met, and that's great. There's other little things that pop up just through discussions, just through, maybe it's a question about one of these things, but then it goes off into another area and you're like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought of that. Or, oh yeah. Or it's a question that someone asks you that makes you look back at your own practice and go, oh yeah, wow. You know, so we have some areas, people have some options to kind of go through. They might know them, but really, I think sometimes the magic happens through that interaction, through those discussions of the area, the topics or the goals that they want to look at. Sometimes it's in those little things that you don't even know that you want to look at, and those get to be looked at too. It's almost like an IEP. You know, you create the IEP and it's got some good stuff in it, and that's what you work on. But all of a sudden you meet with a kid and they're like, something comes from it and you're like, that's gold. Yes, let's look at that too, right? So
yep. Okay, Christina.
Oh yeah, that's right. So really this is more of what this will look like. So in order for this to work, it definitely needs structure. We've been doing stuff like this unstructured, and while there's huge benefit in it, when it's presented in as a program in itself, or as like what we're doing, this induction and retention, it has to have some structure. So but because we have POPDHH has spent so much time creating stuff, like we always say, you don't have to reinvent the wheels, and we're not. We're going to use a lot of those kinds of things that they've already created because they're great. So we're going to use templates from like partnerships, that a lot of those pieces from that is going to be really helpful. We're going to pre-plan out what the mentee is hoping to gain from the experience, and what the things that they're going to want to see and things they might want to observe, and set some really good goals for that. And then we'll know, and we'll be able to know how the goals have been achieved. It will be somehow measurable. Not that I don't know, anyway. Yes. And then it will look lovely, like a lovely tomato salad that we have in front of us.
And it will help us determine where to go from there after the first pilot project.
And the great thing is too, that just because the project ends doesn't actually end very much, right? Like, so it is not unusual for me to talk with people who where I was in a cohort a few cohorts ago. Or maybe cohort's not the right word. I'm thinking COVID is just so entrenched right now. But are they cohorts? The groups. We had our mentorship from like a few years ago. It's not unusual for me to be chatting and going to them. You create these connections and then they last. So just because the project's over, just because the mentorship part is over, doesn't actually end anything. It just, now hopefully you feel like that a person has someone to go to. Yeah. There you go, Angela.
Okay, so itinerant, for those of us who are itinerant, most of us, it definitely looks different, rural versus urban. So here's traffic jams in the urban areas. Go to the next slide. Here's what you can encounter in the rural areas. Deer outside your hotel room, big mountain sheep on the mountain pass. I did have a little clip, but it didn't work out, that rush hour in the East Kootenays was waiting for a herd of elk to cross the highway. We also have mountain passes to go over. We have ferries to ride. And for some of us, we even have to deal with a time zone change depending on the time of the year. So it just all work. It all looks different. You know, especially if you have an itinerant from the Lower Mainland and somebody who's rural get together, and they can really, you know, see what each other goes through in doing their work. And it's entertaining anyways. Sometimes it gets stuck for avalanche control. It's a challenge. So it's different, and it can be a lot of fun, despite some frustrations.
It's good to know too. Like sometimes we spend a lot of time in our area, and I know oftentimes we talk about, well, caseload or you know, those kinds of things, and it does provide some appreciation for the fact that our areas, all of them are so different, and that's why you can't really make kind of like these blanket statements. Like I don't go through winter passes, but then again, I also don't go through Surrey traffic.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And I have to be honest, if anybody comes visits me, basically it's a day travel each way. So you'd have to do that. So to hit this, there should be a little bit more coming up on that slide there, Ivana. Hit again. So the fun things, you can even learn new ways of relaxing after hard days of work. I hope she doesn't mind me saying, but I think this is at Jamie's place. She does, I don't know if it's swing yoga or it's yoga anyways. And Bridget, who has been in mentorship a couple of times, she says, you know, it has given me a network of professional support and friendships that will last a lifetime. Every meeting fills my professional toolbox and helps me be the best teacher I can be for my students. And so that's why we want to be able to provide everybody in BC to do this, whether you come to mentorship or if you do this mentor-mentee induction and retention program.
You want the next slide?
Sure, unless you want to see something. And then, yeah. So I put this comic strip of the deaf guy up there because I like it, because it just reminds me anyways that we can often get into a rut and not look at what is obvious. But yeah, so partnerships and our visits with mentor-mentee, reflections on our work and how to do work-life balance. Observations, having fresh eyes is just so great when you can have somebody, you know, either support what you were thinking of about a student or see something differently that you never thought of before. In services, so you can have a partner that says, hey, I got to do it in service. What are your suggestions? How do you do your in services? I am not a very strong proponent of, actually should have been push in, pull out, of pushing in services for various reasons. I do more pull out, but I would love to know more about people who do push in services. Maybe somebody wants to know more about doing pull out, and why do I prefer that over the push in? New ways of supporting our students and each other. There's some books I got from one of my partner visits of different topics I can work on with the kids with language. So it's just a learning opportunity that is tailored to teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing. Anything, Christina?
I think that sounds good. I think that it is important that one of the things that I just loved about partner visits was spending time with someone else and just chatting. We just, you know, TDHHs are hilarious. And it doesn't really matter how we come together, whether it's mentorship or whether it's through like POPDHH brings kids down for different activities, whatever it is. You think that when we're not on, that that we would, you know, talk about something else. And don't get me wrong, people around me know that I talk about my kid a lot. But what happens often, like 95% of the time, is we go back. It's like we're together. You know, they're trying to, we spend so much time really talking about our work. It's part of who we are. And this, and through those discussions, we start to like look at ourselves. I just really love what comes from those opportunities that together. I think that I'm a better teacher of the deaf because of those interactions.
Yeah.
And so it's this help and support each one of us. But anytime that you get to, you know, reflect on your own practice, anytime that you hear what someone else is doing and you get to think of what part or all of it you can incorporate into your own teaching. And that happens from people who've been working in the field for a really long time. But you know what? It happens from brand new people who maybe had just had more exposure recently to new research, right? What's coming out? Like there's just so many benefits that come through us not working in a silo.
You're on, Christina.
Yeah, so I think the idea is at the end, right? Like after the year is done and the goals, we've looked at the goals and the goals have been met, right? We've looked at things. The idea is hopefully that the mentor and the mentee, they feel good. They feel better. Their hopefully connection has made. If that mentee feels like they might now be like, oh, I'm seeing the benefit of this, and this maybe wasn't enough, maybe I could join mentorship, right? And then really it's connections. Those connections, I know my interjections have probably really been about that, but I feel like that is kind of a core component. And I think that this has kind of come about in an interesting way. I don't think when I joined this, I really thought about it in that kind of how important it would be. But we are all so different and we come from such different backgrounds and we all really put something different into being a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. And what I can learn from other people, and it really just benefits the kids. And that's why we do it, right? We want to be the best teacher of the deaf we can. And we can do that by depending and using and growing with each other. And I just think that if we are stagnant, which is so easy to be in this field, when like, especially if you work in isolation, it is so easy to get stagnant. It is so easy to not keep growing and developing because nobody knows. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. It feels like nobody really knows what the heck I do. But that isn't why we went into this job. There's passion in it. And I just love when I'm with other people and and it just reminds me of why I do what I do. So this induction and retention program, I'm hoping it's going to reach out. I'm hoping to meet new people who are going to inspire me. I'm hoping to meet new people that are going to teach me. And I'm hope that people who feel maybe they don't have those connections, that they can benefit from something like this, realizing they're not alone, that this ecosystem of DHH that we work in is better when we are all a part of it, and to recognize that they are a part of it. They just need to jump in with both feet and kind of join. So I feel like there's huge potential for this program. And I hope that there's some interest in it, right? Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Angela?
Nope, you did very well.
Okay.
So this is from Jamie, who has been in mentorship almost as long as Christina and I have. And her thoughts, I think, will also be able to be applied to this new induction and retention. So she says the POPDHH mentorship program has been the most valuable professional development and support network I've experienced. We're hoping that will happen with a mentor-mentee induction and retention. I work in isolation and deeply appreciate the province-wide congeniality, increased awareness of provincial allies, learning the most current best practices, and opportunity to shadow another TDHH in their district. I always come away feeling confident, validated that my work is unique and challenging, professionally refreshed, and ready to share my new knowledge with my students and interprofessional collaborations. Thank you, POPDHH. So that kind of sums up what we would also like to see happen with the induction and retention, is somebody getting positive experience to make their work life and their students' life better or more satisfying.
I think that next are this is
Questions and answers.
Yeah, if you have any questions, we're ready for them.
We're also open to hearing any ideas that people have out there. We're building this program for you. So if there's something that you heard that you thought might work if it was tweaked, or that you'd like to hear more about, now would be your opportunity to have that input. Can you leave your cameras and your microphones off, just because it's hard for the interpreters, and use the chat box if you don't mind? Okay, Jamie says, what will your application process look like? Do you want to answer that, Christina, or do you want me to? This is your show.
Well, it's not really. I think probably maybe it would, maybe you should answer that. We've looked at it a bit, but I feel like the nuts and bolts of that piece might be better coming from you.
So we're going, POP will send an email out through our listserv in our e-bulletins in the new year with a Google form for you to apply for the program. We'll also include some information that you can take to your director, because your director will need to sign off on your participation in the program. So it should be a pretty straightforward process for that. And then I think Angela mentioned, like, if we get a couple of applications, that's great. And then we'll put people on a wait list, and we'll kind of just keep it rolling with a couple of mentors. But if we have a lot of interest, then we'll have to figure out how to scale it up to accommodate the requests that we receive. Did that answer your question, Jamie? Okay. Katie says, is this going to be mentioned to people attending deaf ed programs in university? That is the plan. We will let people at UBC know, the kids at UBC, and they can apply when they graduate if they're interested in that. The next question is from Connie, who says, has there been any thought to opening up a forum to all teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing that includes those in the program and all others? Sometimes it would be great to pose a question or challenge to get feedback from everyone. Terry, do you want to answer this one, or do you want me to do that? I think part of the purpose of the Lunch and Learns is to start that process. The problem is with the platform, there are limitations to the kinds of group discussions that we can have. I'll let Terry finish off on that, or Christina.
I don't know. I don't want to, I just was thinking, we've kind of done some of those things through different like ways, like through WhatsApp or something. What happens sometimes is it can get incredibly lengthy. Sometimes people have a hard time sorting through it, depending. So I think that's why sometimes having connections with, even if it's just a small group or something, it might, the questions might get answered a little bit easier. It's just, I know that if you miss it, like if there's a group format, sometimes you're scrolling through for forever. So those things, there's just too many people almost involved, if that makes kind of sense.
I'll just add, I think, Christina, you're correct in what you're saying around the idea of a WhatsApp group where there's just so much going on and it's really hard to keep track of that. We do have a staff member, Alana Haller, who is an educational consultant who has set up something under KWC on MS Teams, where anyone who does work and is a member of KWC is able to post a topic in that forum on MS Teams. So if that's something you're interested in on the online discussion forums, that can happen through KWC. That's already there, but we're not going to be running that.
If there's like a specific topic that is of interest to a lot of people, we could look at potentially running a lunch and learn kind of a thing, or a webinar at some other point, and having like maybe breakout rooms where smaller groups of people could do more discussing or sharing of ideas. So if you have any, if there are specific topics that you really want to learn about and you think that having a group discussion or some kind of a brainstorming session might be helpful, maybe send an email to me or to Ivana. So my email is just tamara@popdhh.ca, or Ivana's is on the slide there on the screen. Because yeah, I mean, we're here to support you guys. So if there is something that is, you know, would be helpful to your work or your learning, then just let us know. Does that answer the question? Connie, who looked an awful lot like Arena when the camera was on. We can come back to that if we didn't answer the question. Katie says, has there been thought to putting a private forum up on the POPDHH or similar website to restrict it only to those who are listed in the POPDHH directly can sign up for an account, or directory listed in the POPDHH directory can sign up for an account? I think Terry just mentioned the CADA BC MS Teams forum. I think that's probably the best place to sign up for this kind of a thing. There's also lots of really great Facebook groups where you can post and have discussions as well. So maybe someone could start one for BC on the website, on the Facebook website. Are there any other questions or suggestions? Jamie has a great idea. Could the program progress to regional hubs? I guess the sky's the limit on this. We'll see how it evolves. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that would, because I know that some of you who have been in mentorship have sort of maintained those connections, like Christina was saying, you know, provincially, but certainly locally, you guys understand sort of the geography and the populace that is around you. So connecting with one another could be helpful for sure. Caitlin, do you have any questions? You might be a mentor, Caitlin. She was asking where she could sign up. So if you have any questions or suggestions that you don't feel comfortable posting in the group chat here, feel free to reach out to Angela, Christina, myself, or Ivana. We're happy to address those questions. And we really want to make sure that this program works for people. So do be in touch. And if it's not this program, maybe someone can, we can develop something new. Sorry, Ivana just texted me something that I'm supposed to say. Yes, we're going to continue the Lunch and Learns in January. So keep an eye out for registration for that. And Terry, I see your hand is up.
As Tamara had mentioned, some of you have questions about COVID and how that's going to work with this program. If you don't feel prepared to join this year due to COVID, you can always wait until the following year. We are hoping this will be an ongoing annual program. This is just a pilot at this point next year, but please don't be shy. Please reach out, send us an email. We're happy to answer any questions that you have, A to Z. And I'm looking forward to your participation and seeing where this goes. I know that Christina and Angela are excited to be piloting this and seeing this take off. So, and that's something where I also can step in if you're looking for support in ASL. That's also something that I'm looking forward to providing as well. So hopefully this all goes well.
All right, if there are no other questions, then I will just thank Terry and Christina and Angela for presenting today. And thank you to the interpreters, Krista and Jessica, as always, beautiful job, and to the captioner. And we will look forward to seeing everyone back here for Lunch and Learns in January. Have a great holiday and stay safe, everyone. Stay spread out, wear your masks. Have a great day. Talk soon, everyone.